Hello detectives! This is a bit of a personal video, or at least a look behind the curtain, so to say. First, I want to say Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays, everybody. I've been asked many questions concerning the birth of the series I feature on my channel most prominently, Death of a Game, and what the purpose of the series is and was. Death of a Game has effectively made my career as a content creator and allowed me to continue to make content. Not only do I owe the series and your support for my success, I'm quite thrilled that I also just love the series and the idea period, so it's just a natural fit. But I never really have answered the question publicly and fully explained both why I made the Death of a Game series and why I continue to make it. Some people wonder if I am the Grim Reaper, in a detective costume of course. In reality, I'm just trying to chronicle these iconic online video games and make sure we understand why they do or don't work, so we can learn from them going forward when making new games. Hopefully by the end of this video, you will know exactly why I created this series, a little backstory on me, and what I want to do with this series going forward. Oh, and help me pay some bills and buy some furniture for my new flat by watching or checking out the ad that's coming next as well. Thanks, detectives. Thank you to Yahaha Studio for sponsoring this video, and thank you, detectives, for always supporting me and my content. What is Yahaha Studio? Well, it's a user-generated content creation platform for 3D multiplayer interactive experiences. With Yahaha Studio, anyone can create and publish their virtual experiences without coding experience or server knowledge. Simply use the cool features, components, and smart assets, which there are around 1 million of them, to make your dream game. Yahaha also hosts regular live sessions for the communities to help creators enhance their metaverse building skills, so you can actually learn how to build too. Check out Yahaha on Twitch or YouTube. As you can see, the process to create a game is very easy. I created a simple hide-and-seek game in just a few minutes. Simply select the hide-and-seek template when starting a new project, and choose your favorite object from the asset library, and apply the player transformation behavior by adding a community component to it, and boom, you're done. Playtest your game and have fun. There's a lot to do and experience with Yahaha Studio, but ultimately it's up to you. Download Yahaha Studio for free here using my link in the description or the pinned comment, and start making your own dream games for free. And thank you again to Yahaha Studio for sponsoring this video. Let's start at the beginning of it all, right? That's the idea, at least. I created my first Death of a Game series 6 years ago. The first video was on Star Wars Galaxies. Now, why did I choose Star Wars Galaxies, and why and how did I get the idea for the series in the first place? Well, no one else was doing it at the time, and feel free to fact check me. So there was a need in the market, I thought, for people chronicling why certain games did or didn't do well. And I felt like, well, Galaxies was the perfect game to pick first because not only is it one of my favorite MMOs ever, it's one of my first major MMOs, not counting the in-betweeners, and one of the most controversial and innovative games of all time. I've been playing MMOs and online RPGs for over 20 years now, and Star Wars Galaxies was one of my earliest and most hardcore gaming experiences. It really opened my eyes on what was possible in gaming, and confirmed that gaming was what I wanted to do for a living. I made so many friends in Star Wars Galaxies, and I probably learned how to socialize there too. Questions have always been asked concerning why games or companies fail. That's not new, and people have sort of covered that thing before, but never quite in the way where they follow the game through a timeline and explain the events as they unfold, leading all the way up until when the game dies or fails or so on and so forth. When my partner asked me why Star Wars Galaxies died, I sat there stumped. I had no idea, truthfully, even after spending thousands of hours on the game. Now sure, I could do what most people do and offer my personal perspective, which is helpful, but people have been doing that already historically, and that's not nearly as helpful as truly diagnosing the reasons or causes for something to fail or not impress, because people just have differing opinions at the end of the day. But sometimes your opinion or the opinion of a very dedicated fan that plays a game isn't the same as those that didn't play the game or tried to play the game and then quit. So it's important to get that perspective from the other way too. But that question persisted in my head for some time and I couldn't shake it. So like any detective does when that starts to happen, I started researching the problem and started playing Star Wars Galaxies again. 8,000 words later, and a series, channel, and career were formed. Star Wars Galaxies was my first because it was the only video I could have made and I just didn't care about the reception. Well, the reception was great. Despite my poor mic quality and shoddy script writing, I was able to impress enough people to build a small audience. Since then, each episode has become more produced, has better vocal quality, hopefully, and are either more in-depth or more succinct, 40-something episodes later. While that was the onus for me starting the series, what started to happen was fans would hit me up with messages about how I covered their favorite game and how I was doing it justice. I could read the passion from these players, feeling like their favorite game got the proper send-off was a good feeling too. That's the thing about the Death of a Game series, it's actually a positive series and meant to be taken positively. Sure, death and dead things can be dark and scary, but not always. Sometimes games don't fail, they just fade away, and I wanted to account for that too. I unknowingly walked into a situation where suddenly I wasn't covering video games anymore. I was covering people's love, memories, and in some cases, their life. The videos weren't really designed for this originally, I have to admit that. But it was the City of Heroes Death of a Game that I realized, wow, this is having a profound effect on people. And that made me really want to focus on covering the positive aspects of the games as well, especially when not all of them have failed for bad reasons. It's important to get the full breadth of the story, the positivity, the hope, and even the joy that people shared when playing these games. Of course, as well as the critical aspects that I'm never lacking in. After doing a few dozen Death of a Games, I started to notice some patterns. For starters, nobody really cared how in-depth my arguments were, or the sources, at least not directly, and they weren't ever really challenged that much. That's why I originally created the series, ironically, which is why it reads more like a dissertation at first. But through creating and launching the series, I found more meaning to it, and more ways to affect players and even developers. That was the next big revelation that started to happen. Suddenly I was getting contacted by prior devs of the games, happy that I covered their games or adding more context to the story. I was able to speak to the pioneers of the very industry that I loved, which is still quite shocking to imagine for me. We're talking about the creators of the industry that taught me how to socialize and taught me how to make friends and now has given me a career. These pioneers and developers made me feel like I was doing something in the right direction, something more professional. The audience would prove to me that people wanted to hear or listen to these stories or hear about these games, and the developers taught me that the stories themselves are quite accurate, and yet can still miss so much detail due to not being behind the curtain. I actually ended up liking that, even though it's always good to have developer testimonies and inside sources. On some of these cases, my arguments and my perspectives on the videos have actually contradicted against some of the developer testimonies I've gotten. So it's always complicated. It's never just as simple as somebody can tell you exactly how things went. I still have to develop my series, I still have to develop my research and my timeline. It's just way more helpful when a developer can talk to you about all of that stuff. But this taught me that through the stories I can actually educate people, and not just in remember this game, but actually talk about design, why certain designs did and didn't work, and how to improve upon such things in the future. Because the future is technology, and the future is online in many ways. That can't be denied. Because online games are a world in themselves, and they have been since the 80s whenever they existed in text format, and the 90s when they became digital and became graphical. These online games and worlds have their own rules and realities to them. Design in a virtual world because of this is non-arguably the hardest game design there is. That's because the only way to know how things work is to test it, and test it basically in live. And moving a few things around can suddenly drastically change that experience, dynamic worlds and all. So not only do you have to make the right game, you have to keep making the right game. We can see ideas and see them in action with actual players and test them as players ourselves. So developers watching my video can take notes on what does work or doesn't work, historically, even if they don't care about my personal perspective. This has led to some developers even liking my ideas and wanting me to consult and give them advice on upcoming games and ideas, which has been basically a dream come true. I love to problem solve, I love video games, and I love helping people make their video game a reality. Another unpredictable aspect of creating the Death of a Game series was how much it brought attention to these games and companies, in some cases revitalizing dying populations or stagnating community servers. I was contacted by two major indie developers that their population numbers have increased due to my videos. One of them even gave me numbers. I was able to refer over 3,000 players in just one instance in one Death of a Game. Which is why I want people to understand I'm not the Grim Reaper. I don't want to be. I don't pick a game and kill the game. I pick games that fit my criteria and my intuition that I feel that I can properly defend utilizing the series format. And games that won't make a comeback. But if they do, I can eat crow too and admit that I was wrong. I just haven't really had to do that yet. Instead, bringing attention to a game can be positive as well, and show a certain game in a light that others haven't seen it in, or show them the game for the first time. I've had countless reports that players who watched my videos after the fact became lifelong fans of a particular game they missed the original time around. In fact, I encountered one player who was a massive Phantasy Star Online 2 player who discovered my Phantasy Star Online 1 video and then told me after watching that video he put hundreds of hours into the game, just as an example. So over the course of the life cycle of the Death of a Game series, it has shifted and changed in many ways, including design and artistic vision. I think this has led to the series becoming more prominent and more enjoyable, or at least hopefully, but that's not the end of it all. We're still working on things as a channel and progressing through content creation. Recently there was a bit of an art style change, and rest assured I know that people like the old detective style. The art currently is temporary, and we've been working on new art I should say, behind the scenes, doing a complete redo of all of our art assets, as well as just increasing the amount of them, period. This cost a lot of money and has required 2 major sponsorship deals to make this happen, to bring back Miguel, the original artist, back to the project to create even more art, original art that is. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm sure everybody else is too, so don't worry, we're gonna get things back into the realm of mystery and being a detective, since that's my favorite genre and something I've been a fan of the first time I saw black and white Sherlock Holmes. Stay tuned over the course of the next episodes and you will slowly, if not already, start to notice the improvements and changes. Your feedback and perspectives are how we have gotten this far, almost reaching 400,000 subs and going well over 10 million views overall. I want to thank everyone for watching this video, and to those that have been watching me for years, months, and even days. Thank you for the continued support, and I look forward to creating more content for you guys to enjoy, and content that we can grow with and grow the industry with. Thanks for watching.